go in a very sort of dangerous way. Of course, some of the key areas we looked at was like Luemiyaga, and some constituencies where we knew the competition was a little bit at the edge, you know. So one of the things that I saw, which is a continuation of our challenges in election process, is the issue of gun violence. Well, we saw in Ikamuli, somebody was shot dead. In Nakaseke North, we saw, you know, somebody was also shot and injured. We saw what happened in some other constituencies in the western part where guns were being pulled out, people holding pistols and actually, you know, struggling to find their way through the crowd to go and shoot somebody, you know. And one of the funny things I saw on social media was people wondering whether all those guys who are holding guns are going to end up in the military court martial because of the manner in which they were conducting themselves and showing around guns. So for me, that was a major concern. And since, you know, some people suggest that NRM is like a cold, what happens now is likely to spread to the next election. So I'm very concerned about that. And then, of course, what I've also seen, the possibility of having the same problem that NRM has been grappling with, the issue of NRM leaning independence. And it's an issue that we need to watch closely, whether actually the NRM will crack the whip, because they have told us this time around, if you participated in the primaries and it so happens that you decide to run as an independent, the party will expel you. So we are waiting to see. Of course, there are some people that I know who are not likely to give up, people like Theodore Sechkubo, who clearly believe that they were sort of edged out. People like Barnabas Tinkasimire, who actually also think they were edged out. There were a number of people who actually feel that the process was not held properly. And one of the major issues is, of course, the issue of lining up. The timelines, you know, for you to actually gather all your people to come and line up behind you is a major concern. And probably going forward, maybe the NRM will reflect strongly and change it to a secret ballot. I mean, you can plan to be at the polling station at 11 a.m. and then something suddenly comes up, but you are an NRM member. You end up not, you know, lining up behind an individual. But of course, we also know there are people who are scared to simply come out and line up behind an individual because of repercussions that are likely to happen. So going forward, I think NRM will need to reflect on these issues to be able to perfect maybe the next round of elections. But what I can tell you, going by what happened, I'm thinking that 60%, about 60%, more than a half of the 12th parliament was actually decided yesterday, especially if you are in rural constituencies where the opposition, one, does not have strong presence, but also where they have been locked out. So we are likely to see competition in the peri and urban places for the parliamentary seats.
Thank you, Anderson. Ataire, what's your overview of the election from the campaign time, but also how it got to the climax?
Thank you. My overview is not too far off from Kenneth. I think the NRM primary is normally a precursor of the general election. And it is interesting to see the issues coming up in the NRM primary that are likely to, the issues that are likely to be challenges in the general election. Number one is violence. Where the competition is so high, you have seen pockets or several incidents of violence all over the country, not in, especially in the West, especially in the West. Then use of money in elections. I come from Bushenya and I genuinely think that most of those candidates who have won in the district, I don't think they are genuine. I don't think they have genuine support. I saw there was an earlier election where somebody was videographed actually giving money to voters and say, you line behind this one after. He said, I'm going to give you this amount of money after you line up behind this one, you line up behind the other, and then you close the election. And that's what was happening from what I gather. Then, of course, lastly, you need to, it was interesting to see the turnout, the different shades of turnout. If you see in the rural areas, the turnout was the lines and lines of people. But I was following the media, and it was interesting to see like some NRM elected officials in Kampala. Somebody is alone, the station in Kampala. Does that mirror what is going to happen also in the general election? So those are some of the issues to pick out. But on a serious note, I think issues of election violence and bribing, voter bribery is a very big issue. When it's during the NRM primaries, I know that Kenneth has said that the guys were using gun violence, what they should be court-martialed. I think that the NRM supporters, you can see that normally get away with it. They normally get away with it. When it comes to the general election, then the blame game. The opposition supporters who engage in election violence, they normally pay heavily. And the NRM supporters are likely to get away with it. Well, I'm waiting to see what the police or the security agencies will do with what has come out of, with the people who are culpable in terms of electoral violence in the NRM elections. But that's it. It's a precursor of the general election and the challenges that we are likely to be facing when it comes to the general election, presidential and other elections.
Thank you, Athaire. Joining us on the show is Joseph Sabiti. He's also a journalist, and he'll be shining light, certainly, on the key events and the key issues that happened in this particular election, and also his perception, particularly on the very coverage of the election by the media. Several areas are said to have had internet and network challenges in the night as declarations were closing in. Is that so? What more do we need to probe about it, and where exactly did it happen, except the known areas that have been talked about by those that involved in the election? But Nelson Kapo will be giving us his perspective, especially on the news coverage around the NRM primaries. Do you think there was justice on coverage, especially of the hotspots, but also the key areas where you think it could have been very much more important to cover?
Okay, thank you. I expected a lot of coverage as far as the primaries are concerned, because the National Resistance Movement is a big party, is a massive party. It's countrywide. First of all, the NRM is the only party that is capable of organizing countrywide primaries, and you will see that no other party will come close to that. So coverage is expected. And because of this massiveness of the party, it's very likely that getting a ticket, going through these primaries, is not even a primary. This is like your election to parliament. It's a direct ticket to parliament, except in few places. So I had expected fire in Remiyaga. It has been building up. It has been building up, and we expected it would be that. And we expected coverage, thanks to the NBS that concentrated there and gave us a bit by bit. We have memes that we will keep forever on that one. We have an exchange by two people, and you can literally see that there is something at stake. So the coverage was perfect as far as that's concerned. And then we had an issue with the elections in the central region here, which I believe the turn-up there was quite shocking, based on the fact that for the last two weeks or so, we have been concentrating here with the NRM programs. Yes.
2 weeks.
I want to concentrate on those we have participated in. I don't know which ones, you know.
You know, there's been this campaign in Buganda from 7, which has been
as well.
The ones I want to concentrate on are those that I can account for, the ones where my principal has been actively involved in. So I am quite disappointed, because we have been here for the last 2 weeks. Despite the fact that we've been here for completely other reasons, the parish development model and the MIOGA, I'd expected it would give a little bit of vibe and confidence to the many NRM supporters that are in the